Welcome to Tech at Work Online. Today we will be discussing restorative justice with Kelly Ahrens and Lauryn Crutchfield from the Burlington Community Justice Center. And my name is Melissa Nelson. I am an AmeriCorps member at Vermont Works for Women. So Vermont Works for Women is a nonprofit in Winooski, Vermont, and we help women, girls, and gender nonconforming individuals achieve economic independence in their lives. And this takes a variety of forms for youth work and adult work. And so on the youth side of things, we do programs like this, Tech at Work, which is a speaker series program that introduces high school students and tech center students to gender diverse role models in various career fields in their local community. So this introduces them to role models who are here in Burlington and really shows them that anyone can pursue these career paths who wants to and who is passionate about that subject. And other programs we do for youth are various career exploration programs. So now we will go over to Kelly and Lauryn. Hi, hello. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started.
My name is Kelly Ahrens. I'm the Youth Restorative Practice Manager at the Burlington Community Justice Center, which is a program within the City of Burlington's CEDO department, the Community Economic Development Office.
My name's Lauryn Crutchfield. I am the manager for, unlike Kelly, we do adult work for restorative justice, pretrial services, and diversion. So we also work for our team works for the Community Justice Center as well, and we're housed in the Chittenden County Superior Courthouse here on Cherry Street.
And then just to get a little bit into the background of how you first got into this career field, what made you choose this career?
You can go first, Lauryn.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. I've been in this specific position for almost a year now, but I've been doing this work for a few years. I think what drew me to doing restorative practices and diversion and being involved in alternative measures with the judicial system is I have a lot of lived experience doing this. I'm in long-term recovery from addiction, so I've lived this life and I've been given a second chance, and I was able to essentially recreate my whole life due to restorative work and making amends processes to people that I've harmed in my past, and I've been able to essentially use my life experiences to start to help others. And I think that is huge in the work that we do, to just show people that if I can change my life around and use restorative work and make amends and, be diverted from the typical criminal justice system, then anybody can do it. And I want to be able to offer that to, loads of people. So drew me to, this was my calling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for me, I always wanted to be somehow in the criminal justice system. Back in 2008, I did an internship with a defense attorney in DC, and that was a real enlightening experience because we were working with folks where it was pretty significant crimes like multiple homicides and sexual violence, and I was meeting with folks in the jails to sort of prep for their case. And I think it really it was challenging to sort of be put in that role, to sort of, when you maybe thought someone was guilty and then defending them, and how everyone plays a role in the system. That was like one of my biggest takeaways from that. And then when I moved to Vermont, I sort of saw that this thing called the Brattleboro Community Justice Center, and I saw the word justice in the name, and I sort of reached out to them and set myself up with an internship with them back in 2009 and learned about restorative justice. And I had my own light bulb moment as a part of that, and realized that there are so many different ways in which we sort of punish within society. And so when I was at school in Southern Vermont, my undergraduate thesis was kind of focused on how we punish as a society, and both at the school, I did a case study for an incident that happened at school, and then looked at my experience in DC and then my experience in Brattleboro, and just it just got me hungry for more around this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both for sharing. Would one of you just mind explaining a little bit about what restorative justice is, in case students haven't heard of it before?
Yeah, sure. So restorative justice is it looks at crime and conflict in a different way. Our normal traditional system looks at crime as a violation against the state, whereas restorative justice is really looking at it as a violation between relationships, right? So if I were to steal something from Lauryn, right, it's not me versus the state of Vermont, it's me directly impacting Lauryn. And so with that impact, there's an obligation to sort of to directly make amends to Lauryn, directly make amends to the people who have been affected by that experience, see what kind of community impact that's had, or how to engage more fully with the community. And then a key piece of RJ is how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Mm-hmm. And that's probably the most basic overview. I don't know if you have more to add for that, Lauryn.
No, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. So pretty related to the last question of how you chose this career, but about what time in your life did you end up starting this career?
So I have previous working in the treatment industry for addiction. I was 5 years working for the same treatment center that I got sober at out in Texas. And I think, kind of what catapulted me into this is I just wanted something different. I wanted to be able to just not focus on my sobriety as much, but also focus on another aspect of my life, which was the criminal justice system and being involved with that. And similar to Kelly, I had seen, a position that came up through, we were previously employed through the Lamoille Restorative Center, and it caught me. So within a few years, I had worked my way, through multiple positions, and, it was just something that, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It was just a calling for me. You just kind of know when a position is right for you. And if it feels like a good fit, then it is. Mm-hmm. So for me, I made that change because I told myself that if I didn't walk through the fear to do a complete career change, then I might not ever know if I liked it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really important to know, when someone is interested in a position, apply, see if you're really going to like it, because you just don't know unless you go for it.
Yeah, that really, resonates with me. We moved away, or I moved away from Vermont, and it was kind of post undergrad, and I wanted a break. I had a really kind of up and down experience those kind of previous years, and so I kind of was really faced with that decision around, okay, what do I really want to do with my life and my time? Because I realized that I really wanted to do restorative justice. Like, it's something that just sort of deep within me. I got it. It feels like a calling, even sometimes when I'm like, what else can I do? It's sort of, I just believe so wholeheartedly in it. And so we moved back to Vermont, my partner and I was gonna, because I knew that Vermont was really on the kind of front end of a lot of our restorative justice work. It was really built into the system more, and that there would be career, job opportunities where I could get paid to do this. And so I decided we moved to Burlington. I was going to get my master's in social work, and I decided against that. I really did not want to spend the money that it takes to get a master's degree. And I grew up in a home, and just in my own other experiences, where work is really what's most important, and not necessarily a degree. You can sort of learn other things just by working hard and building relationships. And so that's what I did. I just sort of put my foot in the door at as many places as I could, and moved it back to Burlington. I was on our CJC's first COSA, the Circles of Support and Accountability, with my now coworker. It was sort of supporting offenders, often sex offenders, who are re-entering the community. I was a volunteer out of the police department with the Burlington CJC's parallel justice program that works with victims. So I wanted to get like 2 different angles, but that was at a time where I was volunteering at 4 different places and I was working 3 different jobs. And because you just had to kind of piecemeal it all together. And that led to a 10-hour-a-week position being the parallel justice coordinator up at the St. Albans CJC. I did that for a couple of years, and then that one to me kind of, I kind of had to make that decision. Do I keep doing restorative justice, like keep kind of holding all of these sort of balls in the air, or do I try to get a more full-time paying job? So I entered the domestic violence realm and coordinating a supervised visitation center between parents and their kids. And that was really hard work. And my passion wasn't in it. I couldn't be an advocate. Like it wasn't, it just wasn't a good fit. And then similar to Lauryn, I saw a friend that worked for the CEDO department emailed me, and I was like, like this, let me just try. Let me just sort of put my name in the hat. And then, and that kind of landed me here. And that was about 5 years ago.
Okay, great. Thank you both. What do you love most about your job?
Helping people. I mean, isn't that why we do what we do? People ask me that all the time. Why do you love your job? Because we help people all day. And I also love that it's different every day. Every day something is different. Even though we do the same job, like the same kind of work, you just get to meet so many people and feel that you have an impact on their life.
Yeah, every day is different. There's a different challenge every day, and people surprise you all the time. We can't help but make assumptions in our work, and you see something on paper that a police officer's written, and then you meet with that human being, and you think you might know like how they're going to come to the table, and they totally surprise you. And then you think you know how they're going to kind of go through the process, and then they totally surprise you. I also, something I've always really, really appreciated about this field in the like social work realm and even the criminal legal realm is that you get to see change, not all the time, but you get to see it. And I feel really grateful that that sort of sustains me.
It is so obvious how much you both love your job, so I just love that. Thank you. On the bit of a flip side, what are the biggest challenges to your job?
I mean, I feel like what's best about our job is also, well, for me, is one of the hardest parts is just being so invested in people's lives. It gets really tough, because we deal with very high caseloads in Chittenden County, and it's very hard sometimes being in this kind of work to separate it from your own personal life and not take work home. And I think that it's why we do what we do, because we love helping people, but it's also a challenge to not get fully invested, and finding that fine line.
Yeah, for me, and I think especially for the past couple of years, the more I do this work and the more I work in this system, the more I have a lot of questions about it. I think being in our positions and we get to sort of see some stuff behind the scenes that I think a lot of people assume is working smoothly and well, because as humans, like in these positions, or like as individuals, there's so much good intention and thoughtfulness that every single one of us and throughout the whole system, I think, have, but there are pieces of the system like restorative justice, like Western restorative justice, right? Like the practices and are rooted in indigenous practices, and sort of the westernized version that sort of has been built into the criminal justice system is one that is explicitly like we are an alternative to the system, but we are also within that system. And so and we sort of we know that like every level of the system is broken in some way. And so I think for me, like it's been really kind of tough to tease out what do I do in this like at this local level to hold us accountable, right? We think it's important to hold our participants accountable when things happen, but how do we hold the system accountable to sort of following through and via like restorative principles. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do you do on a day-to-day basis? What does a typical day work look like for you? And I know you did say it changes a lot, so.
That is such a loaded question. Kelly and I do so much. I feel like that we just have so many programs that we offer that's just such a loaded question. I mean, and we're in COVID times, so there's that. Day to day, what that looks like in adult criminal world for diversion. I mean, we essentially get referrals for our programs from the state's attorney's office. They make referrals to say, I think this person is probably a good fit for your program. We meet them at their first court appearance, which is an arraignment. So I'm here today for arraignments to get some people referred to our programs. And that's usually how it starts for a diversion process. So I oversee all of our adult referrals. It's typically 2,000 to 3,000 cases a year that we see come through.
Wow.
That's cases, not people. I want to differentiate that. Some people could have multiple cases. So that's a fun fact about our programs. And we also, day to day, I do part of our other programs, which is pretrial services, and that is not somebody that's diverted out of criminal court. So that is somebody that is going through the court process, and we assist them in meeting their conditions of release and also expediting them getting services, typically mental health or substance use, as soon as possible. So we facilitate that third party to do the handoff from point A to point B. And whatever the judge thinks that would be a need that they have to get met. It's usually a mental health substance use assessment. So those are like the two big things that I do, but there is a multitude of paperwork and court processes and a lot of boring parts of the job. But those are the two big things that we do day to day.
But Lauryn and I both really love process, so those
we do.
Job are satisfactory in some way. Yeah, no, I like, it's funny, I found that to be the hardest question.
Me too.
Those, because it is really different, and I also have found for myself, every year my job has been different here. Like I've had to sort of like forget what I did in some ways when I talk about the now. And something I probably we should have mentioned earlier too was, so the Burlington Community Justice Center has, I forget the specific year that we were founded, but 20-ish years ago, and we were just working within the city of Burlington, whereas last year we took on all diversion programs for the county. And so we almost doubled in size, our staff. And it's shifted our focus a little bit. And so, so all the programs that Lauryn just described are sort of new to our center in the past year. And so it was helpful, Lauryn, being in that position in a lot of ways before this transition and before that job, so we could kind of hit the ground running immediately, which was, I think, really helpful, because hearing that case number, it's like it would have been a really steep learning curve for all of us. And so, I don't know, on the sort of youth program end, we sort of a lot of conversations with families, parents. They are always the wild card in our work. It's not just sort of working with the youth, but sort of working with all that the youth has, both as a support and barrier to moving forward. There's connecting with partners. I'm definitely in more meetings than I would like to be in some way. But it's really helpful, and we don't get them as much because we are living this virtual time, but and also kind of focusing on bigger picture projects. So we have the initiative around looking at Burlington as a restorative city for our youth, and what does that mean, and how we're moving that forward with a fellow AmeriCorps of yours who's been with us for a few years. And then just our work in schools sort of has in supporting the district and implementing RP, which is another thing that's been different in year to year, but sort of lots of big picture stuff, but then like on the ground, that interpersonal piece. And then we also do I would say the thing that takes up the most like administrative time and paperwork is we also deal with underage drinking and marijuana tickets. And so, and those are high here in the county.
Okay, well, thank you both. It is clear you cover a lot and your work is constantly changing, but thank you. I think it's really helpful for the students to be able to hear a bit of insight into what your day looks like. So thank you. Okay, just 2 more questions. So part of this program is to bring gender diverse professionals as role models for the students. So have you had any challenges from being women in this career field, or you haven't found that to be the case?
I haven't found that to be the case at all. It's never been an issue for me. I don't know. Do you have anything to expand on that? Have you seen it, Kelly?
Well,
Never.
Yeah, I was kind of CJCs and diversion. And I think a lot of folks who sort of staff, at least even I was thinking about court, like our court and that kind of thing. There's a real interesting sort of gender barrier in terms of right, law enforcement, like our security guards or the bailiffs or that kind of thing. Like those, the gender lines are pretty, you know, sort of traditional in that way. But no, not in terms of like, mostly we are, you know, we now have more men on our staff than we did. It used to just be 1 for years. And so, and so it's a little bit flipped in terms of the field, but I will say that like, I've just personally experienced in the way that I've been in situations with men in positions of power in this field that sort of crossed the line for me, and that really jeopardized sort of like where I went with my career. Like I was sort of planning, there was a situation where I had I was really looking forward to sort of doing work in a particular area of Vermont, and then sort of something that women face a lot in terms of like inappropriate behavior that sort of jeopardized that for me, this thing that I had been looking forward and working towards. And it's really frustrating. So I think that, right, that exists and permeates throughout all fields, but not in terms of specifically, like, I think we are, the women are definitely sort of, I think, like powerhouses in this field. Forward.
Okay, thank you both for sharing your experiences. And last question, just to wrap up, do you have any advice for these students? So they're mostly high schoolers who will watch this.
Don't let a salary or a wage steer your decision in a job, because I think that I had this notion that when I completed high school, moving into college, that I had to get this job that, you know, was going to be X amount of money, even though I probably wouldn't like it. And I have just found throughout probably one of the biggest life lessons that I have learned is that it is more important to absolutely love your job than how much money you make. I have a lot of friends that probably make way more money than I do, but they are miserable. And I think that is I wish somebody would have told me that coming out of high school. It's like, follow your dreams and what you love to do, because it's worthwhile for your mental health and your life to have self-worth and really love your job rather than just a paycheck.
Right.
So I think that that's probably my best words of wisdom, is like, follow your heart and what you really want to do.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, those are such wise words. Yeah, I think and like concretely, I think making connections, like, again, it's everything is so based on relationships.
Yes.
Reaching out to people, like if you're interested in pursuing a certain direction, or you're just sort of curious, okay, what is that day-to-day look like? Just send an email to, you know, Google the sort of ideas and positions and reach out and do these like informal informational interviews. I have found those so valuable in this work, in terms of, because then you also are putting a face to a name for yourself in that community. And it's really helpful when you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Like you sort of make assumptions about what jobs are like. And so it's really helpful to sort of hear. And same with like degrees, as you're sort of figuring out like what kind of degree, if you want to sort of pursue a degree after high school, I think it's sort of helpful in those terms. And always, or it's sort of good form, I think, to like send a thank you to those folks, like after you send, like that kind of thing goes a long way in terms of building that, like, oh, like look at this, you know, high school student who, or even kind of, yes, post high school student who is kind of, yeah, it just helps with that rapport building. And in terms of something I've learned, like mistakes, when I was sort of kind of out of, mostly like kind of just, you know, in that the early 20s, is communicate, follow through, you know, show up. Like there are times where my skills, around, you know, setting, it's great. Everyone has like a smartphone now. Like I didn't get a smartphone until like 4 years ago. And so it's really helpful for people to, that like young people have it. You can set reminders on your phone, you know, you can do all of these things to support you, because our brains are not wired yet to sort of be as responsible as we think we are. And yeah, that's just sort of like lessons learned from me about like the number of mistakes I've made kind of entering this field, and in a field I didn't anticipate that, like it's been almost 10 years, which is pretty amazing, but I still also never forget those moments when I see those people, you know, where I'm like, oh man, I never like sent that email, and I don't know, it's
I second all of that, Kelly. Like I can't emphasize enough the rapport building and just like very simple gestures, because we live in such a virtual world compared to it was 10, 15 years ago. Making that name for yourself, just doing small things like showing up on time, you know, sending a thank you note, being responsive, all of those things that can be lost in a virtual world just means so much. So much.
Okay, well, thank you both so much for all of that insight into the field. That was incredible. Thank you. And I really love that they get to see the youth work and the adult work that the Community Justice Center does here in Vermont.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.